Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. So DWM has got this mystique that seems to surround it. It has this reputation of being really hard to configure, basically because you have to manually patch it to add in functionality. But no longer. There is now something called dwm-flexipatch out there, which makes the whole process of patching child's play. Anybody can now do it. See you after the intro. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to talk about dwm-flexipatch today. As you know, I'm a big fan of DWM. I've been using it since June 2020, and of all the window managers I've tried, and I seem to have tried many, it's the one that I seem to use the most. It's not perfect though. When I first started out with DWM, I really wanted some sort of colour in my bar, and I tried a patch that was meant to add colour to the bar, and it did, but it slowed the system to a halt. And that's how I ended up using colour emojis in the bar. But that patch that I put in is still in my build, which hasn't significantly changed since I put it together in June of last year. And it's always been a slight annoyance that it's there. So I thought to myself, right, it's time to rebuild DWM completely and to repatch it and to take that old patch out and to replace it with something called a Status 2D patch, which I've heard good reports about. But I have to say that the thought of applying 10 patches wasn't filling me full of joy. Because whilst DWM is a great window manager and it's easy to install, applying the patches can take a lot of time. Initially, they'll all apply quickly, with a straightforward command. But as all the lines start to change, as the files change, you end up having to manually patch. And the more patches that you add, the more problems that you can come across as different patches conflict with each other. So I was really happy when I found something called dwm-flexipatch, which purports to take all of those problems away and to create a really easy way of patching in under a minute, where you simply have a single text file and you change an entry from 0 to 1. So that's what I've been playing with, and I've been quite successful, and I'm really pleased with the output. First of all, I think it's important to say that if you're going to play with this, it's a good idea to know beforehand what patches that you want to include. I will put the patches that I use down in the video information, and I'll also stick them up here somewhere just so that you can see them. These are the patches that I'm comfortable with, that give me the flexibility and functionality in DWM that I enjoy. Your choices may vary accordingly. Let's get stuck into it though. I'm going to use the virtual machine, the Slackware virtual machine that I fired up over the last couple of weeks, and we'll use that as a vehicle to demo this. Right, so you should see on your screen now a web browser that's actually running on my Slackware virtual machine. I have to say I'm only using Slackware here simply because it's already here. It doesn't really matter which distro you use. The process is pretty much the same. But you can see the DWM website up there. And the process for installing DWM is actually straightforward. There's not a huge amount to it. You would do a git clone, move into the directory and do a sudo make clean install. make sure that you've got your xinitrc configured, or if you use a window manager, you'd have to create a desktop file. And then you start adding functionality to DWM. And this is where you go to the patches page, and there are many, many, many patches. Now, you don't want to be applying too many, because the problem is, as I've already said, some can conflict with each other, and ultimately, although there is an easy way to run a patch command, after your first couple of patches, because all the lines in the files are going to move, automatic patching is going to fail, and you're going to end up doing manual patching. And this is really what put me off creating another build of DWM, until I came across this GitHub page by Backaby. I hope I've got that right. And he's got a repository here called dwm-flexipatch. Now, I won't pretend for one instant to understand exactly how it works. But as he says here, it takes a completely different take on patching in DWM, because it uses pre-processor directives to decide whether or not to include a patch during build time. So let's put that into English. What it means is, rather than having to patch the source code yourself, ultimately all you have to do is open up a configuration file. And yes, I know in theory DWM doesn't have configuration files, it has source code. But okay, you open one of the source code files, it contains a list of all the patches, and you simply look at all the patches, and if you want one, it will be down like this one here, which says define bar alpha patch. It will have 0 on it to start off with. If you want to activate it, you simply click 1. And you go through this configuration source file, you choose the patches that you want, you set them to 1, and then you do a sudo make clean install. As simple as that. Or that's the theory anyway. And you end up with lots of different patches, and you can go back into this repository, of course, and you can try different patches, you can remove different patches. So in theory, it sounds absolutely, a godsend. You may, however, he says here, may not like essentially the fact that the files, even when you've just got your patches applied, are going to have a lot of extra bump in them. And I did see what he meant when I had a look at this week. And so he provides something called Flexi-patch-finalizer, which can actually, once you're satisfied and you've got the patches that you want, it can simply clear out all the rubbish that you don't want and just leave you with your final version. So, okay, all good in theory. So let's clone this. I've got my terminal set to, I've created a new directory called suckless. Let me just clone this directory here in this suckless directory, and it's simply a case of git clone. Right, so there we go. Let's bring that down. Well, that was nice and easy. Let's go back to the browser. And let's have a look at this other page that, or this other package he mentioned called Flexi-patch-finalizer. And let's do the same here. Let's copy the URL. And let's also git clone that. Job done. Okay, I think we can shut down the web page now. And let's just make this full screen. Let's just clean it up a bit. You can see here, we've got actually a number of different packages that I've downloaded. I've downloaded dwm-flexipatch, Flexi-patch-finalizer, a little program called SLS status, which I'll talk about after. And I've also downloaded the ST terminal. I have already installed that. If I type ST here, you can see ST opens up. And unless you change the default configuration in DWM, it will expect you to have ST installed. So let's go into dwm-flexipatch-finalizer, FlexiPatch rather, and you can see here that we've got all the standard sort of files that you would expect. And I'm sorry if you can hear what's going on outside, but the rain has just started hammering down like you wouldn't believe. So I'm not going to try any patching initially. I'm just going to run sudo make clean install and see what we end up with. So sudo make clean install, enter my password, and let's see. Well, no errors. That seems to have compiled cleanly. So when we talk about having to compile DWM, it isn't a huge job. It happens in a second or so. Let's see what we've currently got. I'll set up my xinitrc file because I'm in Slackware, and let's boot into a plain vanilla DWM. So here you go. I've just, after setting up my xinitrc, logged into DWM. I did put nitrogen into the xinitrc just to give us some wallpaper right from the get-go so that you weren't looking at a black screen. But this is essentially what you get. This is a plain and simple vanilla DWM. You have 9 tags up here which represent your workspaces, although we call them tags in DWM. You've got 3 layouts by default. You've got this master and stack layout, which I'll show you now. The mod key is Alt by default, and you would do Alt, Shift, and Enter. I've not changed my terminal over to Alacrity, so this is still ST, and it's a fully unpatched ST. If I open 2 more terminals, you'll see that they open in this master and stack layout. If I want to shut them, I do Alt-Shift-C. All good. If I want to move to a different layout, well, actually, let me open up a couple of terminals. You've got some options here. At the moment, it's in this tiled layout, but I can move it to, these are floating now, a floating layout, or you can actually move it to, I was going to say you could move it to a full screen layout, but it doesn't seem to be configured for that at the moment out of the box. But no matter, we're going to deal with all of that anyway. There's nothing on the bar at the moment, which we would expect because I've set nothing up, but you've got the basics of your window manager. So let's go on. Let's see what we can do with this. Right, so we're now back on the standard XFCE desktop, and it's time to start playing. So we go into our dwm-flexipatch folder. And when I first compiled it, it did actually create a config.h file, and for the time being, I'm just going to delete that. And it created a patches.h file, and I've deleted that as well. What I have opened, though, is this patches.def.h file. And just so you can see it nice and clearly, I'm just showing it here in Mousepad. And this is simply a text file that has a whole list of patches. And if you want to change some or apply some of these patches, so you can see the status 2D patch here that I wanted to apply, I just change it from a 0 to a 1. As simple as that. No other work required. And I've gone through this. Ideally, you want to know what patches that you want. But if you don't, this is pretty good, well commented, this file, and you can see exactly what each and every patch does. If there is any issues here, any patches conflict with any other patch, the comments will actually tell you that. So it's nice and straightforward, and I managed to set my 10 patches that I wanted to 1 in under a minute just by using the search bar in my text editor. So that's all good. We've got that done. And that's all there is to patching with this. So all I need to do now is to open up a terminal again, and let's go full screen, and to cd into suckless, and again into that dwm-flexipatch folder, and to run sudo make clean install again. Now, I wanted to show you this with the error because I've come across it before. This is compiled, but we've got a warning message. And the warning message is telling us basically that we've got a function defined in our configuration, but we're not using it. Now, when I first got this, I thought, right, I appreciate it doesn't really matter, but I've got a little bit of OCD, and if I'm compiling something from source, I want it to be perfect. But luckily, when I went back on the GitHub page and I looked in the comments, I found the answer. And the answer was pretty simple, actually. All it is, let me just open this. All it is, if I open this with mousepad again, is there is a patch here called bar status. Where do we search? Bar status, which the author has actually enabled by default. If we can just find it, bar status. You can see there's many, many different types. There we are at the top. So now that's set to naught, all we should need to do is recompile. So let's try again. And hey-ho, the error has disappeared. So what have we actually got now? So if we go to our dwm-flexipatch, and we open up the standard configuration file that we use, which would be config.h, and we open up with that with mousepad, what we will see is actually this is a much longer file than normal. Because essentially it has all the gubbins that you would include if you had all the different patches installed. And it's got lots of if statements here. You know, if that patch is installed, do this. If this patch is installed, do that. And personally, I found this unworkable for me. There's just too much there to quickly configure it. So, okay. So it's time perhaps to have a look at this other little utility that the same author has created, called FlexiPatch-finalizer. And if I read the README there to see what it says, what does it want us to do? Right, so here, essentially we just run flexipatch.finalizer.sh with a -r to say, yes, we do want to run that script. Then we have a path to the directory where we want to run it, which will be that dwm-flexipatch. And then we have the possibility of creating an output directory where we want the processed files to be put. Okay, well, that sounds good to me. So let me just shut that down, well, or minimize it, should I say, and let me open a terminal again. And let me cd back out to the suckless directory root, and I'm going to create here another directory where I would like this FlexiPatch-finalizer to dump everything that it's done. So make directory, and we'll just call that DWM. Now I'm going to cd into FlexiPatch-finalizer, and I'm just going to remind myself of what we need to do. So I need to do sh.flexipatch-finalizer. So sh.flexipatch, never mind that, just do FlexiPatch-finalizer. A -r to say, yes, we do want it to run. A -d to point it to the directory I want it to process. And I want it to process the suckless dwm-flexipatch directory, and I want it to put everything into this new directory that I've just created called DWM. Okay, so hang on to your hats. Let's see if it works. Okay, it's run. There's been no output, so I'm assuming everything has worked well. So let's come out of there and let's go into our new DWM directory, which I'm hoping is now going to be populated. So let's have a look. And it is indeed populated. Can I run a sudo make clean install on that? Yes, I can. And it seems to have compiled cleanly. And the best thing about this, if I just show you on a file manager again, I've got this new DWM file there. And if I go now into my config.h, it's much cleaner. All the bump about, the other stuff that I didn't use in the patch has disappeared. And I've got a normal config.h file, which is now manageable, and I can get on with customizing this to my heart's content, which is great. And if I want to go back and I want to play around some more, I can always go back into dwm-flexipatch. I can mess about with the patches, remove some, add some more on, and then, of course, just dump all the processed files that FlexiPatch-finalizer has sorted into another new directory and play with that. So I've now got a config file. Let me play with it and let me show you what I've actually ended up with. Right, so just to kind of finalize this, what you can see here now is what the result of my playing has been. You can see that I've changed the tag icons to awesome icons, and I've actually made use of that status 2D patch. And with a little script called slstatus, I've managed to actually just use some standard awesome icons and color them, which is great because it means that if I can't get the libxft bgra patch on any other distro, I can always use this build. So from the color scheme, you can probably see that I'm playing with solarized-dark here, just having a slight change from my normal Nord theme, and I've got Alacrity launching, and all very nice. And you can see it's all color-coded. I've got some nice gaps here. I can, of course, change my focus between the windows. That's not a problem. And, all color matched. If I want to make the windows bigger or smaller, well, that's great. I can do that really easily. If I want to rotate the stack, I can do that. All quite nice. I've also messed about getting my Rofi all colour matched as well. And I've been really happy with it. I've got this build currently on my T420 ThinkPad, and I'm incredibly pleased with it. Just before I go, though, I think it's worth saying that the slstatus patch, program is also available from the Suckless guys. And in much the same way, you just do a sudo make install. And from here, you've got a config.h configuration file, which basically is a README for most of it. And it tells you how to actually lay out your bar. And I've just got a few things here. You just copy basically what it says up here, or you can run your own command. And so you've got a function there. It can be a run command, which you put in yourself, or it can be one of these commands up here. You then use the status 2D patch by using this format, a caret followed by C, followed by the hex number of the color, followed by the caret again. And then basically what you want and the command that you're going to use. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because if truth be known, I'm probably not going to keep it. I'm probably going to put my own bash script together, which is essentially what I've been working on so far, whilst I've been using the color emojis. But I am quite impressed at that status 2D patch that it doesn't seem to slow the system down at all. So that's all there is to say. Let's go and have a chat. So that's dwm-flexipatch, and as you can see, I've gone all solarized-dark at the moment. As I say, I've got it on my T420, and it's been there all week, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it really does make DWM user-friendly because the patching is the thing that I think prevents a lot of people trying DWM out. So the more people that know about something like this, the better. I'm not quite sure what the suckless guys will think about this with their minimal code, etc. But hey, you know, it works, and that's all I'm bothered about. SLS status, good little program for creating a bar. I'm not going to use it long term. I am going to create a bash script based on the one I've got already, and I will no doubt just continue to play. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. As usual, what I would say is if you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can go to patreon.com OldTechBloke and support me there, or you can buy me a pint on my website. I'd like, of course, to, as always, thank my Patreons, and I'm just dragging the names over. We've got Robert, Aristotelis, Stormpix, Mike, Ty, Forrest, Patrick, Glenn, Magnus, Darren, and the latest member, Mislav. Mislav, I'm not going to attempt your surname as I don't want to butcher it, but thanks very much, mate. It's much appreciated. Right, guys, that's it for today, and I'll see you next week.